Yeah. So, good morning, all. So, let you all welcome to the first day of this academic calendar, and it will be very new to you because you are attending it in the online from the starting day onwards. So, let me share my screen first. So, is the screen visible?
Visible, sir.
Yes,
Okay, okay.
yes, sir.
So my name is Dr. N. Baladastagiri. So I have teached you the digital design in the 2-1. Okay. So this the digital design subject will add as a basic subject to this analog and digital integrated circuit. So last time, so when we checked into the online in the Microsoft Teams, just we have discussed about the overview of the syllabus. Okay, the subject which we will be discussing is analog and digital integrated circuit. Okay, integrated circuits. So this is a combination of linear integrated circuit as well as digital integrated circuit. So analog integrated circuit means the integrated circuits which deals with the analog signals. So all of you, I think you know analog signals. Analog signals means so which are continuous in amplitude and continuous in time. So they are analog signals. So the ICs which deal with the digital signals, they are called as digital integrated circuits. So digital integrated circuit deals with only zeros and ones. Okay, so whatever the inputs you are giving will be in terms of zeros and one, and the output also will be in terms of zeros and ones. Okay, so the course objectives of this study are the the main aim of this course is that the students will able to understand the basic concepts of linear integrated circuits. Also they can apply the knowledge, so in case of digital integrated circuit, so they can learn the hardware description language, so which is used to design the digital circuits. So in the digital design classes, so you have studied various combinational as well as sequential circuits. So just we have studied that in order to verify the functionality, or in order to know whether the designing of the circuit is correct or not. So we have to give the inputs for that circuit and we have to verify the output. So there are number of cases in your digital design lab. We have used the ICs in order to verify the functionality of the circuits. So but here we will write the programming for that circuits, that is the digital circuits, and we will verify the functionality of that circuit. So after giving the inputs, we are getting the intended outputs or not. So this functionality can be verified by using the hardware descriptive languages. Majorly, there are two types of hardware descriptive languages. Apart from this, there are hardware verification languages also. So the two hardware description languages are VHDL as well as Verilog HDL. So VHDL stands for Very High Speed Integrated Circuit Hardware Description Language, and Verilog HDL stands for Verification Logic HDL. Okay, so as per our syllabus, so we will be studying about the VHDL. Okay, so in the your syllabus consists of 5 units. The first unit consists of basics of operational amplifier. Okay, so its characteristics will be discussed and then followed by the applications of the operational amplifier. Okay, so operational amplifier uh, will measure the difference between two signals and will amplify that a difference of the two signals. Okay, so the applications of that operational amplifier will be studied in the unit 1. So then followed by the IC 555 timer and PLL, that is phase lock loop. So you might have listened to the concept of PLL in your analog communication subject, and as well as so we will be discussing about the D by A and A by D converters. So D by A converters means digital to analog converters, and A by D converters means analog to digital converters. So these analog to digital and digital to analog converters plays a crucial role in the design. in the designing of real-time applications. Okay, why? Because so whatever the signals that are available in the nature are analog signals, but in order to have the low power consumption of your electronic devices, so we require digital processing in that electronic devices. Okay, so in order to that, so we are converting in the analog signal into the digital domain. So after processing your signals in the digital domain, again you are converting back that digital signal into the analog signal by using the D by A converter. So there are different types of A by D and D by A converters that we can see in the unit 2. So these two units will be regarding the linear integrated circuits or analog integrated circuits. So after that, in the third unit, we will be studying about the CMOS logic and the behavior of electrical behavior of CMOS logic. Okay, so where CMOS is nothing but the complementary metal oxide semiconductor. So CMOS is the combination of PMOS plus NMOS. So the pull-up transistor is NMOS and the pull-up transistor is PMOS and the pull-down transistor is NMOS. Uh, so after that, so we'll be dealing about the basics of VHDL in the unit 3. So the design flow, the syntaxes, the basic syntaxes of VHDL will be discussed in the unit 3, and also the type of programmings will be discussed in the unit 3. Then followed by the discussion of combinational circuits and its corresponding ICs in the unit 4. So for the same, we will be writing the VHDL program. So in the unit 5, we'll be discussing the sequential circuits and the related ICs. So for the same sequential circuits, we will be writing the VHDL programs. Okay, so these are the textbooks and the reference books what we can follow for the subject. So I prefer Roy Choudhury book as well as John F. Walkerly for linear as well as digital integrated circuits respectively. So for linear integrated circuits, you can use D. Roy Choudhury. For digital integrated circuits, you can use the digital design principles by John F. Walkerly. So the second and third textbooks. So you can use for the reading. Okay, so the course outcomes, the COs, what you can learn, that is the outcomes what you can get after reading the course is that, so the students can able to understand the basic principles of analog integrated circuits. Okay, so and also you can able to design the combinational and sequential circuits by using the VHDL, and you can able to design combinational and sequential circuits using ICs. So these are the three course outcomes where we can where what we can achieve by reading this course. Okay, so this is the basic introduction about the syllabus. So now let us see the PPT for the introduction to the yeah. So first thing, okay. So let us see the thing here. So the first one, wow, we can see this, the invisible killer. So nowadays, if you see, the India has become the hub for the heart attacks. Okay. So someone has unmuted their video audio. So please mute it. India has become hub for the heart diseases. So more than 25% of deaths in India are due to the heart attack. So you may be listening to the person getting heart stroke or heart disease every day. Okay, from the persons who knew us. And if you see here, this is the generation of the ECG signal. Okay, so I am taking an application here. Okay, so by using this application, I would like to define what is the importance of integrated circuit. Okay, so don't worry that you are not going to read all these things regarding to this signal. Okay, so by taking the application of ECG signal, so I'm going to define what is the importance of integrated circuit. Okay. So if you see the generation of ECG signal, so in the heart you have four chambers. So left two auricles and two ventricles. So it is the right auricle, it is the left auricle, so it is the right ventricle, so it is the left ventricle. Okay, so here there is a node known as sino-arterial node, so it is the SA node. Okay, sino-arterial node, so it is the node, so from where your heartbeat starts. Okay, so how the heart beats? So heart beats due to the presence of chemical imbalances in the heart muscle. Okay, so this sino-arterial node, what is the no, it does is that, so due to the chemical imbalances, this sino-arterial node will generate the electrical pulses. Okay, so these electrical pulses will be traveling from the SA node to the AV node. From the AV node, so this will be transferred to the right auricle, from the right auricle to the left auricle, and then to the left ventricle. Okay, so as the electrical pulses that is generated at the SA node, it travels throughout your heart. So like this, electrical pulses will be generated in the heart, so which makes the heart to beat. Okay, so now consider arrhythmias. Okay, so arrhythmias means is one of the cardiac disease. So what is the problem of arrhythmias means? Arrhythmias are the cardiac problems in which the heart rhythm of your heart become abnormal. So normally what happens, theoretically you have studied that the heart should beat at a rate of 22 beats per minute, but in reality the heart beats 60 to 100 times per minute. Okay, so if the heart beats more than 100 times per minute, it is called as increased heart rate or tachycardia. Okay, if the heart doesn't beats too low, that is less than 60 beats per minute, so this is called as bradycardia. These are the two types of arrhythmias. If the person is suffering from the bradycardia, that means with the lesser heart rate, what happens, the heart might not supply the required amount of blood to the all organs in the human body. So due to this decreasing heart rate, the blood supply to the brain decreases, so which in turn leads to the lightheadedness or fainting, or ultimately to the death of the patient. Okay, so sometimes if the heart beats too high, means what happens, the heart rate is greater than 100 means, so there also the person may feel the high heart may feel the his heart rate is increased, and he become tense, and the BP will be increased, and there are many problems. So in order to solve this, okay, so in order to solve this, there are many electronic components. Okay, so now for example, if you want to solve the problem of bradycardia here, so we have to insert a pacemaker into the human body. So in order to treat the problem of tachycardia, we have to use the implantable cardio defibrillator. Okay, so in order to treat bradycardia here, a pacemaker is used. So this pacemaker means, pace means speed. Okay, so which will increase the speed. A pacemaker is recommended in the patients so whose hearts beats too slow, so the pacemaker will be inserted into the human body. So under the collarbone near the lungs, so this pacemaker will be inserted. So you can see here. Uh, so it is the pacemaker. The leads of the pacemaker are kept into the human heart. Okay, the pacemaker kept is under the collarbone near the lungs, and the leads from this pacemaker are inserted into the human heart. Okay, so this pacemaker is inserted into the human body through the surgical procedure. So that means if the pacemaker should at least work for 6 to 7 years. Once the person is have undergone surgery and a pacemaker is inserted in his body, the pacemaker has to work at least for 6 to 7 years. Otherwise, if it is not working, if it is not working for 6 to 7 years, so then there is a problem. Then the person has to again go for the surgeries. If the repeated surgeries are happened, there is a problem of the person might face severities. Okay, so due to this the person may lose his life. So that is the reason why, so we have to make sure that the pacemaker inserted into the human heart work for the longer period of time. So if it has to work for the longer period of times, then the pacemaker has to dissipate low power. That means it has to consume low power. If it has to consume low power means it has to consume low battery. Okay, so here you can see one more thing. You can see the outer view of pacemaker. So the pacemaker consists of electrode. This electrode is inserted into the human heart. It is an electric circuit and it is the battery here. Okay, so whenever the person heart beats too slow, automatically this electrode will detect that. So what does this electrode do here? So this electrode will continuously monitor the heartbeat of a person. Okay, it will continuously monitor the heartbeat of a person. So after monitoring the heartbeat of a person, whenever the heart beats too slow, automatically this information will be given to the electronic circuit. So this electronic circuit will analyze it. Okay, so analyze the cardiac signal, that is the analog signal. First it will convert that analog signal into the digital signal. That digital part will be given to the digital signal processor that is present in the electronic circuit. So why we are using the ADC and why we are using the digital signal processor is that, so the digital signal processor why we are using means in order to achieve low power consumption. As I told you, when compared with the analog domain circuits, the digital circuits will dissipate low power. Why? Because it will operate only with zeros and ones, and the complexity of transistors that are present in the digital circuits are very low when compared with the analog circuits. So that is the reason why digital circuits will consume low power. So as the cardiac signal is analog signal, so we have to convert into digital signal. So for this we have to use the AYD converter, that is analog to digital converter. So in the electronic circuit, we have the and here A by D converter, so which is nothing but a mixed signal circuit, and then followed by the digital signal processing, so which is in digital domain. So that means if you take any application, so we have now seen the application of the pacemaker, but if you see any application here, so depending on the application, the type of ADC and the type of DSP you are using will be varied in the electronic device mostly. So but if you see any real-time application, it depends both on the analog integrated circuits as well as the digital integrated circuit. So that means from this you can say that analog as well as the digital integrated circuits plays a huge role in our daily life. Okay, so this we can so let us see here the background. So how the data will be sensed. Okay, so whatever the signal we are monitoring from the human heart, okay, so that is called as biopotential signal. Okay, so the biopotential signal monitoring and recording is done by the electrode which is inserted into the human heart. So it will so this electrode what it does is that, so after acquiring the biopotential signal, so this biopotential signal monitoring data will be recorded. Okay, so after this, and the more important thing is that, so in our human body there are different types of biopotential signals. So what are that biopotential signals means? ECG, EEG, EMG, EOG, like that. So these are the different types of biopotential signal. So ECG signal means the signal which is related to the human heart, and EEG is nerve signal, and that is the related to brain. EEG, electroencephalogram, which deals with the brain activity, and ECO, electrocardiogram, so it deals with the nerves. Okay, So it is the proposed block diagram in your application. So whatever the ECG signal coming from the human heart, that is from the electrode. So first we are using a instrumentation amplifier. So this instrumentation amplifier will monitor the signal. Okay, so whatever the signal we are getting from the human heart, so that will be monitored by the instrumentation amplifier. So it will continuously monitor the ECG signal, and also it stores the information related to that ECG signal. Okay, so next this part. Okay, so this total part, comparator, DAC, and the conversion register. So this total part is nothing but the ADC, that is the analog to digital converter. So after that, so we are transmitting that digital data into the digital signal processor. And if you see here, so it is the power consumption here, the data processing. So in the data processing will consume 25% of the power, and the analog front end. So analog front end means the block diagram what you have seen here. Okay, so that is the combination of instrumentation amplifier and the ADC will consume 38% of power for the transmission and receiving of data. So 2% of power will be consumed, and the digital signal processor consumes 35% of data. So from this you can say that both analog and digital designing plays a crucial role in the real-time application. So this is the important aspect what you can see here. So how much you reduce the power consumption is the important thing. So if you want to design any component with respect to integrated circuit, so we have to make sure that the power consumption has been reduced. So if you want to design any analog circuit or digital circuit, so the main thing what we have to make sure is that, so there are three components. First thing is that low power consumption. The designed analog or digital components should consume low power, as well as they should work with the high speed. That means the speed of the device should be faster. And third thing is that area occupied must be low. So these are the three components. Okay, so that are three parameters that has to be followed when you are designing an digital or analog integrated circuit. Okay, the first thing is low power consumption. So that is the electronic device or the circuit which you have designed should consume low power. And the second thing is that the speed should be at higher rate. So that means the operational speed of the circuit should be faster. And third one is that the area occupied by that circuit should be lower. So these are the three components that we have to make sure when you are designing any analog or digital circuit. Okay, so now let us see what is an IC. Okay, so IC means the full form of an IC is an integrated circuit. Okay, next, what is an integrated circuit? Where do you use an integrated circuit? So why we are preferring an integrated circuit other than the interconnecting discrete components? Okay, discrete components, connection of discrete components means the things which you do in your lab. Okay, so taking different components and connecting them by using the wires. So this is nothing but the interconnection of discrete components, so which the practice we normally follow in the laboratories. Okay, so the first one is integrated circuits. The integrated circuit or an IC is a miniature low cost electronic circuit consisting of an active and passive components, so that are irreparably joined together on a single silicon crystal of chip. Okay, so that means here what we are doing is that, so first we are taking a single crystal chip of silicon, that is nothing but the silicon wafer. Okay, what is silicon wafer, how it is prepared means the first thing which you get in your mind. Okay, so normally we will take sand. Why? Because sand is a pure form of silicon. Okay, after taking this sand, so this sand is heated at more than 1100 degrees centigrade. So after heating this sand into 1100 degrees centigrade, so you will get the liquid form of this sand. So by using this liquid form of sand, so we are arranging the liquid form of sand into circular discs. Okay, so after these circular discs are etched in order to make the surface very smooth. Okay, so how smooth it will be means it will looks like a mirror. How the mirror will be smooth. In the same way, the circular discs of liquid sand will be etched in order to make the surface of the silicon very smooth. So first what they will do is, so they will take the sand, so and then they will heat the sand at a temperature more than 1100 degrees centigrade. So after that they will get the sand in the liquid form. So later, so this liquid form of sand is arranged in terms of circular plates or circular discs. So after that, so these circular discs are etched in order to make the surface of that circular space very smooth, like a mirror. Okay, so on these circular discs, a large number of active and passive components are fabricated. So it means a large number of active and passive components are placed and are joined together. So it forms an IC. So it is an IC. So normally what you can say is that an IC is an integrated circuit where a large number of active and passive components are fabricated on the single silicon wafer. So what are active components? So active components are nothing but the components which can dissipate the energy. So like example, your transistors. Okay, so passive components means which can store the energy, like your capacitors, inductors, resistors. So these together they are placed on the silicon wafer in order to uh, get an IC. Okay, so it is the definition of an IC. Once again, I repeat the definition of an IC. The IC is an integrated circuit where a large number of active and passive components are fabricated on the single silicon wafer. Okay. So next, what are the applications of an integrated circuit? The integrated circuits are used in everywhere. Okay, so are used everywhere in all the applications. We are using the integrated circuit. So the word IC has become a household acronym. So if the person who knows the technology or who doesn't knows the technology, he may listen to the acronym IC. Okay. So for example, if you are going to if you want to any damage in your electronic components, and simply if you take it to the shopkeeper, what he will say, so the IC has been damaged, we have to replace the IC. So he just know, he doesn't know the importance of that IC, but he knows only the IC is malfunctioned. Okay, so the people will be using the word IC as a household acronym. So even they don't know or know the technology of IC, so they will be simply using the terminology of IC. So for example, these ICs are used in all the applications related to communication, control systems, instrumentation, so computers, electronics, what not. So in all the fields, so we are using the integrated circuits. Okay. So next, what are the advantages of IC? So if we use the IC technology, so what are the advantages? The first thing is that, so we are going to achieve the small size. So if you connect the circuit, that with the discrete components, it occupies larger space. So but when you are fabricating the same thing in the integrated circuits, the size is small. So that means we can achieve small size. For example, what you can say is that, so in the lab, in the digital design lab, so if you want to design a full ladder, so what you have done, in order to design the full ladder, you have taken an XOR gate, you have used 2 XOR gates. So after that you have used the AND gates. Okay, and you have connected these ICs by using the whites. Okay, so it will be very complex. Okay, in order to see that connections. But if the same full ladder is developed as a single IC. So it is developed as a single IC means only we have a small IC. So for that IC pins, you can give the inputs and we can take the outputs. Now imagine the complexity has reduced as well as the size also have been reduced. Similarly, if it is the same IC, so the connecting wires cost will reduce. So that means it also provides low cost, less weight, so low supply voltages. So if you are using the single full adder means just you can directly give the required amount of 5 volts, 5 volts to that IC. Suppose if you are using the different circuits or different ICs for XOR gate, AND gate, OR gate separately. So what we have to do? So we have to give the 3 power supplies for the different ICs. That means the supply voltage also required is more. So but if you are using it as an IC, as a single IC, the supply voltage is low, and moreover the power consumption will be automatically reduced if the supply voltage is reduced and the number of components are low. So our next one is highly reliable. So whatever the circuit we are using, so it is IC is highly reliable in its operation when you compare it with the circuit when you are using with the connection of discrete components, as I told you. So if you are using the proper working full adder IC, so directly you can give the supply voltage as well as you can give the inputs and we can verify the outputs. But if you are using the AND gate, OR gate, XOR gate, IC separately, so what we have to do is that due to the internal connections, sometimes we may not get the output. So the output here is non-reliable. So when compared with the output of the integrated circuit. And next one is fast speed. So it has more speed when compared with the uh, different connection of different components. Okay. So these are the advantages of IC. The next one, what you can see is that here, so you can see the structure of IC, how an IC is prepared. Okay, so let us see how an IC is prepared here. So first, what you can see is the thing here I am projecting in the PPT is the related to digital. Okay, so digital IC. The first one, the first step, if you want to prepare an IC, the first point what we have to see is system specifications. Okay, so what are system specifications means? So what are the things we want to achieve by building the IC or by designing the IC or by manufacturing the IC? So what are the targets we want to achieve after we manufacture an IC? So these are the system specifications. Okay, so for example, I want to manufacture full adder IC for suppose. Okay, so in the system specifications, what I require is, so what first I should require, what is the functionality of that full adder IC? Okay, first we have to make sure that what is the functionality of the full adder IC. So what is the functionality of the full adder IC? If the inputs are A, B, C and the outputs are sum and carry. Okay, so we have all these should be drafted in a separate file. Okay, now 3 inputs it has, 2 outputs it has. So we have written the first point. What is second point? What is the relationship between the inputs and outputs? Okay, so is there any function relationship in terms of equation, or is there any truth table? That all we have to store it in the file, or we have to write in the piece of paper. Okay, so next I have written the relationship as if sum is equal to A XOR B XOR C and carry is equal to AB plus BC plus CA. So this is the functionality. Third thing, so in order to design this full adder, so full adder is a digital circuit. Okay, so in order to design this full adder, so what are the programming languages we have? We have 2 types of hardware description languages. One is Verilog HDL and VHDL. Okay, so there are 2 languages, but we need a person who can write the programming. The languages are present, but we require the person who can write the program. That means we require a programmer. So now we want to hide the programmer. So if you want to hide the programmer, so what is the thing? We require the we have to give the salary to the programmer. So what is the budget we have there? So after having the budget, how many employees we require? So what is the duration of time we are having in order to design that IC? If it is short duration means we have to hire more number of employees. If the duration is longer means we can hire the lesser number of employees. So after hiring the employees and as well as after writing the program, so next we have to design. So next we have to verify the functionality of our code what we have written. So in order to verify the functionality of the code what we have written, so we require some software tools. Okay, so we require EDA tools, electronic design automation tools. So by using these tools, we can able to verify the functionality of the programs what we have written for your digital circuits. Okay, so again, what are the type of tools you require? So what is the cost we can afford on the software? So all these should come under the system specifications. So from the scratch to the ending of achieving the target, so what are the total requirements? So that has to be noted in the system specifications. Okay, and next one is architectural design. Okay, so architectural design means in the VHDL or Verilog, so we have we can design the circuit in three types, that is in structural designing, or you can designing in the behavioral model, or we can design in the data flow model, so which we can see later. So in any of this model, so depending upon the type of requirement and depending upon the programmer flexibility, so you can write the program in any of these methods. Okay, so after writing the programming, the next thing is we can go for the functional design and logical design. Okay, so functional design and logical design together we can take it as a functional verification. So in the functional verification, here we have to verify the functionality of the given circuit. Okay, so that means we can verify the functionality of given circuit by simulating. Okay, so simulation is different from the functional verification. So simulation means if you give the inputs, you may get the output, so that may be a correct output or wrong, but you have simulated your circuit, so that means simulation has done, but it is not verified functionally. So functional verification means so verifying the functionality of the circuit. Okay, so how can you verify the functionality of the circuit? So we can verify the functionality of the circuit by using the truth table of the circuit or by using the functional description of the circuit. For example, if full adder is there, so how can you verify the functionality of the full adder? If A is, so we have to specify if A is 0, B is 0, C is 0. What is some output? Some output should be 0 and carry output should be 0. So next we have to verify A0, B is equal to 0, C is equal to 1. Then sum is equal to 1 and carry is equal to 0. So like this, you have to give all the 8 combinations. So up to 1, 1, 1. A is equal to 1, B 1, C is equal to 1. So then sum should be 1 and carry should be 1. So if all these 8 combinations are correct, so then only we can say that the full adder is functionally verified. If any one of the input combination is wrong means automatically you can say that the functionality of the full adder is not what we have intended. Okay, the functionality is not correct. Again we have to go to the programming. So again we have to change in the programming based on the internal architecture or the functionality of your circuit. So after doing the functional verification, so next we have to design the circuit design. So that means the code what you have written, so that has to be in terms of the circuit. So in terms of the transistors. Okay, so here we are using CMOS technology. It means the CMOS technology means the total relationship, that is S is equal to A XOR B XOR, the gates what you are having, XOR gates, AND gates and OR gates. So these have to be defined in terms of the transistors. All the gates should be defined in terms of the transistors. So these transistors may be the CMOS transistors or FinFET transistors or the BJT transistors, depending upon the technology what you are using. So now here, let me know what is meant by technology. So you have listened the word from many people. Okay, so that the technology has been increasing. So what is meant by the word technology has been increasing? The word technology has been increasing means the transistor size has been decreasing. Okay, so how the transistor size decreases means by decreasing the channel length of your transistor. So if you are taking the CMOS, which is the combination of PMOS plus NMOS, the channel length in the NMOS or channel length in the PMOS is nothing but the technology what you are speaking. For example, if you see the specifications of any electronic device, so sometimes it will be written CMOS 18 nanometer technology. So CMOS 18 nanometer technology means the transistor what we have used is CMOS transistor. Okay, so the technology is 18 nanometer. That means the channel length of PMOS transistor and the NMOS transistor in the CMOS is 18 nanometers. So that is the CMOS 18 nanometer technology. So for example, FinFET 9 nanometer technology means the technology what you are using is FinFET technology. So the channel length is 9 nanometers. So in the industry now, I think 5 nanometer is 5 or 3 nanometer technology is going on. So next 2 years we may get 3 nanometer technology electronic devices. That means the size of your electronic devices will be shrink to a little bit. Again the size will be reduced. Okay, so this is nothing but the technology means. Okay, so after the circuit designing is done, the next one is we have to go for the physical designing. Okay, so physical designing means whatever the circuit we have designed, so that circuit will be designed in terms of the geometry. So by using some geometrical specifications, so we have to build up the circuit, so which is nothing but the physical design. Okay, so after the physical design, so physical design is moreover designing the layout of your circuit. So layout means geometrical representation of the circuit. Okay, so once the layout of the circuit is designed, the next one is physical verification. So physical verification means here there are 3 steps in the physical verification mainly. The first one is DRC, design rule check, and second one is LVS, that is layout versus schematic, and third one is PEX, parasitic extraction. So these are the 3 things which you can see in the physical verification. So what is meant by DRC, design rule check, means when you are designing your circuit physically, so there are some design rules. So we have to make sure that these that is for every technology there will be some design rules, I can say. Okay, so depending upon the technology, so whether the physical design process is meeting that design rules of the technology or not, so is nothing but the design rule check. If the design rule check is wrong means the circuit is not designed in that particular technology, so there is a problem in the designing. So until unless DRC is correct, we cannot proceed further. The next one is layout versus schematic. Here the layout which is designed in the physical design, and as well as the circuit what we have designed. Okay, so these two have to be functionally correct. Why? Because for the layout circuit, so for the in the physical design process, that is for the layout, so we cannot check the functionality, but the functionality of this layout has been done for the corresponding circuit in the circuit design. So therefore the netlist of this layout and the netlist of the schematic have to be compared in order to know the functionality. Okay, so after that PEX, that is parasitic extraction. So during the designing process, if any unwanted parasitics or capacitance might have crept into your design, so that have to be removed. So once the parasitic extraction has been done, so we will get a GDS2 file. So this GDS2 file will be sent to the fabrication. So there will be a number of fabrication units in around the world. So the major fabrication units are TSMC and AMI. These are the major fabrication units. So there is no need of sending the whole design to the fabrication team. So after the physical verification and the sign off, so we will get a file known as GDS2 file, and this GDS2 file has to be sent to the fabrication unit. Okay, so depending upon the data that is present in the fabrication unit, the engineers in the fabrication unit, so they will manufacture the IC. After the manufacturing, the IC is manufactured, so next what they will do is that, so these ICs will be packed. So what in the labs you are seeing some black color strips on the ICs. Okay, so black color strips, some will be in the terms of like metal. So these are the different types of packaging. So internally the IC will be there. It will be like a glass. Okay, if you remove that black color strips and metal strips, inside that you can see the ICs. Okay, so packaging will be done. So after that the ICs will be tested for the functionality. So you can use the different IC testers, and then you can check the functionality. So after that will be marketed. So this is the process of digital integrated circuits. Okay, so next, classification of ICs. So majorly there are two types of ICs, as I told you. One is digital IC and second one is linear IC. Okay, so digital IC means the ICs which deals with zeros and ones. The functionality of these ICs will be only in terms of zeros and ones. So like your logic gates, adders, whatever the circuits you are seeing related to digital design, so they are the digital ICs. So linear ICs means the ICs whose inputs and outputs are analog signals. Okay, so like your timers. Okay, so multi vibrators. So these are analog signals. Okay, so where the inputs and outputs will be related to analog inputs and analog outputs. So it is the classification of ICs based on the functionality. Okay, so are based on the behavior. So if you see the integrated circuit classification based on the manufacturing, so there are three types of integrated circuits based on the manufacturing. So one is monolithic circuit, second one is thick and thin film circuits, and third one is hybrid circuits. Hybrid circuits is the combination of both. So monolithic circuits means so which is designed from, which is manufactured from the same same part of the IC. Okay, so the IC which is manufactured from the same silicon wafer. Okay, so there are majorly two types of monolithic circuits. One is bipolar and second one is unipolar. So bipolar means the electrical conduction of these circuits is done by using both the holes and electrons. Okay, so unipolar means the electrical conductivity of the device is done by either electrons or holes, that is either by only one of the charge carriers. In case of bipolar circuits, the electrical conductivity is done by using both type of charge carriers. Okay, so here in bipolar circuits, so we have two types of techniques again, p-n junction and dielectric isolation. In case of unipolar, we have two types of transistors again. One is MOSFET and second one is JFET. So it is the classification of the ICs with respect to the manufacturing. So with respect to the functionality, so the classification of ICs are two types, that is digital ICs as well as linear ICs. So next, you can see the chip size and the complexity. So once the transistor was invented in the year 1947. So after that, so in the year 1947, when the transistor was invented, it was initially manufactured by using germanium. So when compared with the germanium, the silicon has many important properties. So based on the silicon, the transistor was developed in the year 1955 to 1959. So from there onwards, the first silicon planar technology was developed in the 1959. So on the same plane, number of circuits were built. So the first IC, so was built in the year 1960. The first set of ICs were built in the year 1960. So these ICs were called as SSI, that is small scale integration. So SSI means small scale integration. So on the small scale integrated circuits, 3 to 30 gates will be presented. Okay, the number of gates that were presented on the, so in terms of gates I am discussing first. The number of gates present in the small scale integrated circuits are 3 to 30 gates, that is on each chip. So after that, so the next evaluation of integrated circuit technology is medium scale integration. So next one is MSI scale integration technology. So it has been evaluated in the year 1965 to 1970. So whatever the ICs built in these years, they are referred to as medium scale integrated circuits. The number of gates, so here the gate in the sense means the logic gates we can take. Okay, so the number of gates here means 30 to 300 gates were built on the single chip. The next one is LSI, that is large scale integration. So these ICs were existed during 1970 to 1975. Okay, so the number of gates in the large scale integrated circuits are 300 to 3000 gates per chip. So after that, so VLSI technology has been evolved. So in the VLSI technology, so more than 3000 gates were present on the single IC. So after that, ULSI. So next is, that is ULSI stands for ultra large scale integration. So where millions of transistors are fabricated. So nowadays millions and billions and trillions of transistors are trillions of gates are presented on the single silicon wafer. Okay, so this is referred to as GSI, but from VLSI, ULSI and GSI. So GSI stands for giant scale integration. All these together they are called as VLSI. So from the word VLSI to the present technology, so all this referred to as VLSI technology. So even the number of terms were differed, but they are together referred as VLSI. The first one is SSI, that is small scale integration. Next one is MSI, medium scale integration. LSI, large scale integration technology. VLSI, very large scale integration technology. So here we have defined the number of gates present on each IC. Okay, so now if you see with respect to the transistors, okay, so active devices means transistors. So in the small scale integration, less than 100 transistors are present. Okay, on the same IC. So in the same IC, number of transistors presented are less than 100. So this type of IC is called as small scale integration technology IC. Okay, so small scale integration it is called as. The examples of these are resistors, diodes and BJT. The examples of these type of integrated circuits are integrated resistors, diodes and BJTs. And the next one is MSI, medium scale integration. So in the medium scale integration, the number of transistors presented are in between 100 to 1000. So 100 to 1000 number of transistors are fabricated on the IC. Okay, so the examples are BJTs and enhanced MOSFETs. The next one is, as we know, that is large scale integration. So in the large scale integration, we have 1000 to 1 lakh active devices. Okay, so 1 lakh active devices. The examples they are built from MOSFETs. Okay, so next is VLSI, very large scale integration. So more than 10 lakh transistors are presented on the single silicon wafer. The examples are 8-bit and 16-bit microprocessors, and ULSI, that is over 1 million of transistors are presented on the single silicon wafer. The example of this is Pentium processor. Okay, so these are the number of active components present on the different integrated circuit technologies from SSI to ULSI. So once again I repeat you, so SSI stands for small scale integration, MSI stands for medium scale integration, LSI stands for large scale integration, VLSI stands for very large scale integration, and ULSI stands for ultra large scale integration. Okay, so this is the thing, how you can see the integrating technologies that have been evaluated. Okay. So why is designing digital ICs different today than it was before? So it is very, very different. So due to the increase in the technology and due to the increase in the manufacturing process and the fabrication technologies, so the designing of ICs is very different from that of the olden days, and as the technology increases, the supply voltage is also reduced, and nowadays you are into the technology of FinFET. Okay, so will it change in future? Yes. So as the device size is shrinking from day to day, a new from BJT we have went to CMOS technology. From CMOS we have went to FinFET. So FinFET technology, you can again acquire new more technologies, and also the routing, that is the connection between the transistors in the IC has also been increasing. So now next in the few years we may use the optical waves in order to give the connections between the transistors. So this is the new technologies that we are getting in the field of so in the field of VLSI. So this is how you can see. So what you can, so this is the things we have seen so far. So let us meet again. Maybe in the afternoon session we can meet. So some of you, Bindu madam is on leave, I think so today. So I may take, or I may not. So depending upon the things I can specify it. So I can post it, whatever the things I can post it in the group. Okay. So